All right, we are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Thursday evening, 7 p.m. Looks like Next Level's already chiming in. Good evening from Raleigh. Good evening, Next Level. Thanks for chiming in. Yeah, if you're joining us, make sure to put in the comments where you are joining from. If you're watching this in the future, you can also throw in the comments where you're joining from as well. It's going to help us as we build this out and go down the road. So hope y'all had a good week. If you live here, really probably anywhere in North Carolina, it has been cold, freezing cold. It's been in like the 40s basically all week. Halloween was pretty brutal. Hope y'all had a good Halloween as well. But man, it has been unseasonably cold. So I look forward to, I think this weekend's going to look a little better in terms of weather. So, but yeah, got a loaded agenda tonight. Got some pretty exciting things we're going to be talking about. So, again, if y'all are just joining, make sure to put in the comments where you're joining from. But going to talk a little bit about some job growth that we're seeing in the area. Some of what we're going to talk about is kind of, I'm not going to say old news, but there's some updated things about some old news we're going to talk about. But yeah, so we'll just dig right in. So the first topic of the night, I'm going to share the screen here. We've got Wolfspeed. So Wolfspeed is it's a semiconductor manufacturer that's actually located, is headquartered here in Durham, which is really cool. It used to be known as Cree before they renamed themselves. So now they're known as Wolfspeed. But they are opening and this is the old news part. They're opening a manufacturing plant in Chatham County in Siler City. So if you don't know where Siler City is, that is perfectly fine. Most people probably have no clue where Siler City is. So if you're looking at a map, Siler City is west of Pittsburgh. If you don't know where Pittsburgh is west of Raleigh, Cary, Apex. So it is pretty far out there in terms of location, but it falls within Chatham County. So when you're thinking about just the general triangle region, most folks tend to think of Wake County, which is where, Raleigh, Cary, Wake Forest, Apex, all those areas are, or Durham County, which is obviously where Durham is, Orange County, which is where Chapel Hill is. But counties like Chatham County are also part of the greater triangle region. So their growth directly benefits the growth of Raleigh and Durham and Chapel Hill. So the growth is happening in Chatham County right now with Wolfspeed. Wolfspeed is just one of those manufacturing plants that's coming in. VinFast, which is a Vietnamese electric vehicle producer, they are moving into Chatham County as well to manufacture their vehicles. So, yeah, this particular plant that they're building is a $5 billion facility that's going into Siler City. It's going to create 1,800 jobs, which is pretty awesome. And that's going to be by 2030. So we still got several years. But what was interesting is Wolfspeed just had an earnings call on Monday, and the CEO announces they've already hired 100 people for this particular plant. So hiring has already begun, and this is going to directly impact those, especially those on the western side of the triangle. Places like Apex and Cary and Holly Springs, Pittsburgh. A lot of folks that are going to work in this plant are going to live in those areas, and so the fact they're already hiring is a really good deal. Really good thing. So when you think about these, with where the economy is and a lot of uncertainty with certain things, to know that not only is this moving forward, but they've already begun hiring is a really cool thing. So, yeah, it's I mean, they, and Wolfspeed too. They're a big beneficiary. I don't know if y'all remember when Congress passed. It was either this year or maybe the year prior, the CHIPS Act, right? When they were trying to push for manufacturing of semiconductors here in the United States, as opposed to getting them like mainly we get them from Taiwan. Um, but producing them here, they were a big beneficiary of that. So yeah, a lot of good things coming in Chatham County with Wolfspeed and with VinFast breaking ground. So I thought that was really cool. So the next topic that I'm really excited to bring this one up. This is just so fascinating. It's almost it's almost absurd because we're projecting the most populated cities in 2100, which obviously I'm not going to be alive in 2100. So like this is really absurd, but it's very fascinating. So when you're breaking this down, Texas kind of rules the growth that they're projecting. I mean, they're projecting that in 2100 Dallas has 33 million people, Houston has 31 million, Austin has 22 million, really dwarfing places like New York City, Los Angeles, um, places that are the top locations. Now, but what's really fascinating is Raleigh makes the top 20 on this list. Again, this is almost as absurd as it can get with this being in 20 or 2100. I almost want to say 2021 because that just makes more sense. But yeah, 2100. Let me try to get to the page with Raleigh real quick here. It's really fascinating. I'll scroll down here. Yeah, Raleigh is in the top 20 projected for 2100. And all right, here we go. Now I'm going to share it back. If I can get over here. And Charlotte edges out Raleigh. So Charlotte's projected to have a population of 11 million in 2100. Raleigh carries. So this is something that's really interesting about this area. Census data splits Raleigh Cary as a metro and then Durham Chapel Hill as a metro, which in reality, this whole area is those two metros combined. But when you're looking at this, the Raleigh Cary metro is just the Raleigh Cary metro area. Durham Chapel Hill will be a completely different metro area, but they're projecting the Raleigh Cary metro to be 8.4 million. Now, if you look at kind of how the population is split today, I think Raleigh carries about 1.4 million, and then you have the metro of Durham Chapel Hill that's right at 700,000 or so. And so those combined, so if you're looking at this with that same lens, that essentially the Durham Chapel Hill metro will be half roughly of what the Raleigh Cary metro is, you're really looking at this whole area having about 12 million people, which puts it right up almost to the top 10. Again, really absurd that we would even be thinking about what population would look like in 2100, but I can't even fathom this area having 12 million people in it. Let me know what you think about this, because I mean, again, this is ridiculous to be projecting this far into the future. But it's really fascinating when you look at this list. I mean, it's a lot. You know, they folks talk about the migration to the southeast of the United States, and you see a lot of that here. I mean, you see in the top 10, you've got, I mean, Dallas. You know, Texas isn't the southeast, but I mean, you can kind of lump it into the greater southern region, benefiting from a lot of the migration coming in. You've got a lot of Florida on here. You've got a lot of North Carolina in the top 20. You've got Texas. You've got Georgia. So really fascinating stuff as far as what migration trends look like. And we see some of this with, the folks who reach out to us who are moving into the area. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those areas where we see a lot of migration into the triangle. But yeah, I saw this today and I was like, it's just a fascinating topic to think about what it's going to look like in 2100, a year I will probably never see. I mean, they even say here talking about kind of absurdity. Maybe we'll all be living in the metaverse, right? But anyway, just really fascinating. So yeah, let me know what y'all think about that. I just can't fathom this area reaching that kind of population growth, but who knows. So there's the other article that I saw this week. It's about a development coming into Wendell. And I never heard of this, but it's called a build to rent community. Um, I'll share the screen so y'all can see it here. So it's coming into Wendell, build to rent community. And it's the first time I'd ever heard of this concept. And I'm not really sure how I feel about it. So essentially, a developer partners with a builder, and they come in and they build townhomes and single family homes, um, and they are for rent only. So this particular community, I believe they're going to have, where did it break? Right here, 89 townhomes, 83 single family homes. A little too early to determine the rent at this point. They said, but yeah. So I mean, it's not going to be a small community. But essentially, what they do is they come in and they build this community, and none of these homes are for sale; they're just for rent. Um, and as I was reading it, it was kind of it in some sense it kind of bothered me to a degree. But then I was like, what? I mean, what's different about this? Because apartment complexes go up all the time, right? Um, and they're just for rent. The developers developing that land, it's for rent. Those will never be for sale. No one will ever have ownership over those outside of whoever owns it. But this felt a little different, and I think what it is, and I'd love to know y'all's thoughts on where y'all land on it. But I think what bothered me about this is how much land they take up to develop this amount of space, that could have otherwise been used for folks to buy real estate, or and use that equity to build wealth and to you know benefit the growth of their family. But I don't know. It just hit me kind of weird, that you would have an investment company essentially build a neighborhood that was rent only. Um, yeah, I think for me it was all about the space, right? It's how much space they're taking up, how much land they're taking up that could otherwise have been spent on folks being able to actually purchase a house and gain equity in that house and build wealth with that. So, yeah, I'd love to know y'all's thoughts on that, because I could be in the minority. I was talking to Cindy about it, and it didn't seem to bother her as much as it bothered me. So yeah, I'd love to know what y'all think about that. So it just felt a little weird. Apartment complexes are one thing, but when you develop this much land, it just feels a little odd. Um, but I mean, it's a great concept for the developer. Um, they're gonna make a lot of money doing this. So, all right, next is, so a lot of folks don't realize that there's a small pocket in North Durham where there's quite a bit of biomedical firms. So Merck is up there, Novo Nordisk, who we're about to talk about, is up there, um, and there's several others. But this is the other job opportunity I want to talk about tonight that I thought was really fascinating. So they are, and this is in the very, very, very early stages of the process. So it says, a global pharmaceutical company could pursue a major expansion in a manufacturing facility in Durham. So they're looking at potentially almost doubling their square feet if this goes through, going from about 190,000 square feet to a little over 300,000 square feet. But one reason I wanted to highlight this, not just because the potential for job growth that this brings to the area, but one reason is in North Durham, there's that pocket of pharmaceutical companies. So we tend to think everything is in the Research Triangle Park region, right? And the Research Triangle Park does have a not quite a monopoly, but there's a lot there, especially when it comes to these types of sciences. And so, but North Durham has a significant amount, as well. And there's this little corporate, I shouldn't say little, it's 5,500 acres of this corporate park and on the North Durham region. It's in an area called Treyburn. So Treyburn is this established neighborhood up on the north side of town. There's a golf course there. I think Michael Jordan used to be a member of the golf course back in the day. A really beautiful neighborhood, but this is where these facilities are located. There's a corporate park that's essentially attached, or not necessarily attached, but it's part of that space. But I just think, it's kind of hidden. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but it's a heavy hitter in the area as far as what it has. And this area in general, I wanted to show this because, companies like Apple and um, you know, Google and all these other tech companies kind of coming into the region, they get a lot of the press. But when it comes to what this area has that really excels, it's the life sciences. It's companies like Merck and Novo Nordisk that are really, setting this area apart from others. So I thought this chart right here really shows it. You've got the Raleigh-Durham area here at number 6 as far as, the talent clusters, they called it, of life sciences. You've got number 2 is Washington, D.C. Number 4 is New York. Boston, Cambridge makes sense. Number 1. Number 3 is the Bay Area. And then you got number 5 is San Diego, and we edge out LA. So, it's easy to kind of get caught up on, Apple moving to the area and Google moving to the area. There was some big news at one point about Meta moving to the area, and that kind of, I still don't know if that actually is coming to fruition. I don't know if anyone does. But when it comes to what really drives this region, it's this. So those other companies get a lot of press. This is what really drives our region. And so when you see expansions like that, it's just a really big deal. So and a lot of that, this article points it out right here, the outsized presence of biological and biomedical sciences. We've got Duke, we got UNC, we've got NC State. And so there's a lot of universities here that pump out those types of sciences, and that growth comes from that. But yeah, so I don't know how many, this article doesn't mention how many jobs this potential growth would bring, but I would imagine, to double your facility like that, that's a pretty big to be a pretty big thing. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. All right, so this one was really fascinating to me. So there is a plan. It's called the Bus Rapid Transit System in Raleigh. So I don't know, and I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm not the best resource when it comes to public transportation in our area. I've never ridden it, and so not a great resource on it. But I do know when you look at some other metros, maybe of similar size, maybe they have some kind of rail system, or they have some kind of something else, right? That it's there. Maybe there's multiple options or whatever it is. Our area really just has the bus option. So I think when comparing ourselves to other areas, we don't do a great job here of public transportation compared to maybe what some other cities do. I know even in Durham, sometimes there's bus routes that aren't even connected with by sidewalks, right? So you have people who have to like push their kids in strollers from like one bus section to another bus section to get to the bus. And so just not a lot of great infrastructure there when it comes to public transportation. This project I love because it's improving that. So I'm going to pull the screen back up here. I'd love to know y'all's thoughts on this as well. Pull it up. Yeah. So the Bus Rapid Transit. So this has been in the works for a while at this point. So again, this is nothing new per se, but what is new is they're about to start soon. So there's 4 different sections that they're going to be putting together. So I'm going to pull it up here, try to get a better map. This will be the first section, the Wake, New Bern Avenue. I'm going to zoom in on this map here. Yeah, so you've got 4 different, they call it 4 different corridors, right? So you've got the northern corridor, and you got this corridor, and you got the southern corridor. So basically, this is going to look like this right here. It's going to have this section where buses are able to essentially go freely. I think this is going to be a huge benefit to the area, especially for folks who use public transportation. It's going to allow for faster access for them. It's going to allow faster access for people who don't use public transportation and who get, stuck behind the bus when it has to pull over to the side. I think all around this will be a really great addition. Yeah, next level says, I'm really surprised Raleigh doesn't have a rail or subway system like Charlotte does. Yeah. And I am too, to be honest with you. I think especially with how interconnected the region is, you think of, I kind of how I talked about earlier, right? Where there's, according to the Census Bureau, there's 2 metros here. There's the Raleigh Cary Metro and there's the Durham Chapel Hill Metro, but it's really just one area. And, you've got just that interconnectedness between it. And, I was driving today. I was driving from Raleigh to Durham, which I do quite often. And you've got Highway 70 that connects, Raleigh to essentially kind of the mid portion of Durham. And, it's just stoplight after stoplight after stoplight. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this. Maybe a freeway to connect those 2, or some kind of system that speeds this up. And so, I think your comment about the rail system, like something like that would make a lot of sense here, just with how interconnected it is. Most people don't just, if you live in Cary, you probably don't just live your life in Cary. You're probably in Raleigh some, you're probably in Durham some, you're probably in Apex some, or whatever it is. If you live in Durham, you're probably in Raleigh some, or Cary or Apex. And so, yeah, I think some kind of system would be nice. I do know that it's been pushed for a lot. It's failed a lot for a lot of different reasons. So it has been something that's been on the table that just hasn't come to fruition. So, but yeah, I'm with you on that. But anyway, I think something like this is, I was going to say creative. It's a creative solution to what we have, right? We have a bus system here. How do we make that bus system more efficient, more capable? And I think this is a really good option. So it looked like when I was reading through this article here, that the most of it would be done. Yeah, here it is. So the New Bern corridor, the southern corridor, and the western corridor, the one that goes from Raleigh into Cary, is on track to be completed by 2030. So that would leave only one of the corridors left. But yeah, I think this will be a huge benefit to the area. So, all right, last up on the list, I wanted to talk about, so the Fed met this week. So I want to throw a little housing data in here as well. And the Fed decided not to raise rates, which was, for the most part, I think, expected at this point. And essentially, I was going to try to find a quote from Jerome Powell. Here it is. He said, "We're not confident that we haven't essentially taken care of this, and we're not confident that we have." So that they seem to be kind of in this like middle area where they're just waiting for more data to come in before they make their decision. So like a lot of economic data, it lags behind. And so sometimes you put policies in place and those policies don't come to fruition until a while later. And that's essentially what is happening here. So I think they're just waiting for a little more data to come in before they make a decision. So I know last time, the time prior to this, when they met, they talked about how one more rate hike was on the table, and it seems like it potentially still is, but they're just essentially waiting for more data to come in. But I think though, it's good that we didn't see another rate hike. And what I wanted to point out with that is mortgage rates. So mortgage rates have responded pretty favorably over the last really this week. So if you're looking right here, you've got 7.5%. So that is a substantial difference. I say substantial. We were at 8%. So it's not substantial, may not be the right word to use, but I mean, you know, there's not a big difference between 8% and 7.9, right? Or 7.85, but there's a big difference between 8 and 7.5. And so today we were at 7.51 was the average. So it's a really good thing. I still think, I know last week I did an entire episode on the housing market and kind of what I was expecting with the housing market, what a lot of the experts were expecting with the housing market as we go into 2024 and all of that unaffordability and all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't watched that, go back and watch it. But that theme of higher for longer is still going to be a reality. So even though we saw, a little bit of easing on the mortgage rate side, which is great, I hope we see a little more. I still think we ought to be prepared for this kind of higher for longer type market that we'll be in for I think a while longer. So, but yeah, I think overall though, it's good. It's good news. 7.5 is much better than 8. So it sounds better. It's more, it's a little more affordable. So it's just better all around. But I think the Fed will meet again in December, if I remember correctly. And that will hopefully they decide not to raise rates again in December. So, but anyway, appreciate y'all joining tonight. Like I mentioned before, hopefully the weather, I think it's supposed to be in the 60s this weekend. So much better than the 40s. So, but I appreciate y'all tuning in this week. I love these. And I look forward to joining y'all next Thursday. So see y'all next Thursday.